Alright, so we'll go ahead and remove the plastic hub cap on there. And I believe it's a, was it a 21 or a 20? Let's try the 21. 21 works. And go from there. So now that that is off, what I'm going to do is actually remove the cover that covers the CV axle nut to the actual hub assembly. I'm going to remove that. It's sort of hard, but I use a flathead screwdriver and you can just get in there and flip up those flanges, and once that's off, you can get the nut off while the tire is actually still in place, and you don't need a air hammer to get that out. So now see here, for my 2001 anyways, my 2500 non-HD, I can fit a 35mm bolt on there. I know lots of people say use the 6-point socket, but I just managed to find a 12-point, and it fits on there really nice and snug, but lots of other guys I've heard you got to use a 36mm. So we'll pop that off before the truck's in the air. And obviously while you're at it, we'll get these lug nuts off there as well. Alright, so now we have the truck jacked up, on jack stands, both wheels off, everything set aside. So on both sides, I don't know if you want to work on both sides at the same time or one wheel at a time and do everything, but I'm probably going to do both sides at the same time. So first, we're going to either remove the caliper and set that aside, or disconnect the not speed sensor, but the ABS signal wire. It comes up to here. Now I think we'll be able to just pop this over a little bit and get at it there. And yeah, remove that and set that aside, and then do both of those. We just have just some plastic clips all over the place, and those are pretty easy to pop off with your hand or a screwdriver. So I found out the clip that actually connects to the other part of the truck, well, that actually goes to the computer, this actually mounted right up there. I guess you can't see that very well, but anyways, obviously you can check your new part to see what it looked like. So there was a clip here that I just popped off, and once that part was out, then just stick a screwdriver under here, pop that off. Sort of a pain in the ass, but that's the way she goes. Alright, so once you got the caliper off, assuming it wasn't too difficult, these bolts were sort of a pain to get out of the steering knuckle. Thankfully I've actually removed them before with a good impact gun, and I lubed them up, so they weren't too bad getting off with a cheater bar or a breaker bar. And so here's the caliper. Just use a small bungee cord holding it together. I know I shouldn't be putting it really on the threads, but I just want to get this done. So alright, now I guess really we take off the caliper. It should just come right off there. Not the caliper, the disc. What am I talking about? You know, for those who have two hands, this is a lot easier. So we'll do that. So after that's off, this is what it should be looking like. Not too bad. And so it sort of came in handy taking that nut off first. You may have to put your wheel on and off, and so you can actually get that cap off, I found. But you can do it when the tire or the wheel is on. Just a little bit more time, that's all. So your CV axle should move pretty easily in there, actually. And if it doesn't, well, then you've been probably driving in water quite a bit, or you live in a rainy city. So what we're going to do, as you can see here, there's one bolt, there's another bolt, there's your ABS sensor in there. So on the back side, we're just going to Probably give those little bump. There's 4 of them. Apparently for the new one, you got to torque it to 133 foot-pounds. I'll just do a little extra just for fun. Alright, so once you get, well, those 4 nice bolts, they're actually not even too rusty. Didn't even use penetrating oil or anything. So, yeah, it should almost just start to peel right off by itself. You know, that's why I sort of like working on newer vehicles. I know 2001 isn't very new, but when you're working on cars in the 80s, everything's welded together by rust. So this should really just come right off. And it looks like it. I just may just have to give it some wobbles here. So, well, that didn't take too much. Just gave her a couple pulls. She pulled right off. So yeah, this was the wheel bearing that was giving me problems here. It's got about 180,000 kilometers on it. And how I first noticed it going was I was turning really slow and backing up, and just started making these sort of, I want to say squealing, but not very loud squealing, sometimes some groaning, and of course you'd hear a pop sometimes when you changed turning direction at slow speed. So I just go pop. So I guess I really should have showed you before, but I'd be able to pull my tire and it'd probably be an inch of play up there. Now I think I had this problem probably for like 5 months of driving, probably like 10,000 kilometers on it before I finally realized that the bearing was bad. And how I figured that out was lifted the truck up just like this and gave her some pulls. You can't test that theory when the truck's on the ground. You gotta lift it up. There's too much weight and it'll hold that that wheel to one side, and you're not strong enough to push it the other way. So much easier when you lift it up. And from what I can tell here is why it failed was, well, I mean obviously old age, but you can tell this stuff right here, it's not really focusing very well, but this, what it looks to be dirt, all actually feels like the grease has just all extruded and it's combined with dirt. There's actually not too much rust at all, as you can see. It's just, I think the grease just started to go and just metal contact, even though the rollers are rolling. Oh yeah, you can feel it. You can feel some binding in there. I'm sure there's lots of metal particles. But yeah, so I think it's just strictly old age. But in my personal opinion, if you can keep staying out of water, even though those are supposed to be semi-sealed, stay out of water and I'll screw them up. And here's the new bad boys. They are solid as rock. I can barely turn that when it's first stationary. It's so tight in there. So, oh, and by the way, do both sides at the same time, especially at 180,000 kilometers. Just do that. So the other thing I'm going to do here is, before putting those brand spanking new hub assemblies on, I'm going to clean her up a little bit. Probably take my wire brush, scrape off this surface here so you get a nice good mating surface. And while you're at it, because you got your tire and everything off here, clean up your tire rod ends. Yeah, I do know that I probably need some soon, but I grease it, as you can see, on a pretty regular basis, so she's not too bad. Upper control and ball joint, not too bad. Bottom one hasn't split. Top one I think has a little split on it, but yeah, they don't seem too bad when I'm moving, and when I'm steering, it's pretty tight. So I'm going to wait till I get some loose feeling or some noise coming from my front end again until I'm replacing these guys. Alright, and so once you get the new hub assembly on there, it's just really a matter of fact of putting everything back in reverse. So putting the assembly back on, putting the 4 bolts in the back to 133 foot-pounds, and then putting the disc back on, putting the calipers back on. I can't remember the foot-pounds of those guys, but they're pretty big bolts, so don't be afraid to get them to 140 foot-pounds or so. They're about the same size as the lug nuts. And after that, stick your tabs back in. This is the fun one, going back in up there. I'll do that later. And really, that's about it. Put your wheel back on and you're done. So, good luck.